Seraph of the End, an anime about humans who resist the vampires who have taken over the world. Not much complexity to it, pretty straightforward. The vampires are dicks who enslave and treat humans like shit, and the humans band together and fight back. And it turns out the humans have powers too, and now you have a battle anime. It's certainly not groundbreaking, and it's not always classy, and it's a pretty typical Jump series, yet it's one of my favorites, and I think a big reason for that, aside from it just being entertaining, is that it felt like I was watching Bleach all over again. And if you've been on this channel before, you know I'm clearly a Bleach fan, so a show with similarities with Bleach isn't something that would keep me away from an anime. And with the sorry state of Bleach today, I'll take what I can get. But at first glance, those similarities might not be so apparent. Bleach is about Grim Reaper samurai who fight hollows and other people, and Seraph of the End is about humans who fight vampires. One takes place mostly outside the human world, and the other takes place on Earth and focuses heavily on humans. While the similarities are not so much in the settings, but rather on the characters who inhabit each world and the integral plot points that move each story forward. So I thought I would list off some of the uncanny similarities between both series. Main characters, not so much. Yuichiro is an enthusiastic vampire hunter who volunteered for the Resistance Army, while Ichigo was dragged in by circumstances. Although one major similarity is that both characters struggle to resist the will of their swords, and have had incidents where they went berserk at enemies after they lost their consciousness to their sword spirits. The characters who introduced them to their jobs, and subsequently dragged them into the main story, Rukia Kuchiki of Bleach and Shinoa of Seraph of the End, are both short, teenage-looking girls with quite a few skills of their own. And both hail from prestigious, well-known families, but both have a lot of training to do, nonetheless, which is apparent in both series. Furthermore, their interactions with the main characters, both of mentorship and of support, indicate a possible ship and therefore get the fandom speculating. Although Shinoa and Yuichiro looks almost guaranteed to be official by series end, while that was not the case in Bleach with Rukia and Ichigo. Both main characters have a rival-ish, frenemy kind of guy in their group, Uryu Ishida in Bleach and Shiho Kimizuki in Seraph of the End. Both wear glasses and have different weapons set up from the main character. They're both smartasses and also argue with the main character a lot. When both are introduced, it seemed they were destined to fight the main characters, with Uryu confronting Ichigo about him being a Shinigami in the beginning of Bleach, before there was a hollow attack that forced them to work together. And in Seraph of the End, Kimizuki and Yu Hyakuya were at each other's throats in training before they came to an understanding, over the issue of Kimizuki's sick sister. Both groups have an upbeat person who seems to bring the overall mood in the group up, Orihime Inoue in Bleach, and Yoichi Saotome in Seraph of the End. Both characters are constantly smiling and trying to cheer up other people in the group, and are a lot less violent or impulsive than everyone else, while both are considered to be the weakest physically in each respective group. Orihime and Yoichi both specialize in ranged combat, Orihime using her Zanten Keshun attacks, which have a variety of uses such as healing, defense, and even offense, although admittedly that offense isn't spectacular, while Yoichi uses lethal explosive arrows to great effect. Finally, Chad of Bleach and Mitsuba of Seraph of the End don't share as much in common, but they do have a similar backstory and reason for acting the way they do. Both learn to be more selfless after traumatic experiences prior to meeting the other main characters. Chad is a big and imposing person. He took advantage of that growing up, beating up other kids, although his grandfather tried to teach him to be more gentle, to no avail. This all changed when his grandfather stood between him and a few kids who desired revenge and took the beating for Chad. And this turned Chad into a much more gentle person that only reacts with violence when absolutely necessary. This carried over into his interactions with Ichigo and Co., and despite his big intimidating figure, he has a liking for animals and other cute things and is shown to be extremely loyal to his friends, and prioritizes others' lives over his own. Mitsuba was with the Moon Demon Company from an early age, but while fighting a horseman of the apocalypse, she broke formation to save a squad member, which caused the death of her squad leader, who used himself as a human shield to protect Mitsuba, and the other members of her squad, and this affected her greatly. After that, she prioritized teamwork very strictly, to the point where she got in arguments with Yoichiro because of his impulsive tendency to charge vampires head-on. But her aggression in sticking to formations comes from a desire for nobody else to die, and to not repeat what happened with her previous squad. Although she seems like quite the stickler, she's a genuinely good person who cares for those around her. So much like Chad looks like a ruffian at first sight because of his imposing physical appearance, Mitsuba's constant arguing and anger towards other squad members, which annoys other characters and viewers alike, masks a much more concerned personality. Kisuke Urahara of Bleach and Guren Ichinose of Seraph of the End share a few similarities in that they are both very cunning, and both clearly know more than they're letting on. But nonetheless, they help the main cast of characters with knowledge, tools, and both have even stepped into physical confrontations to help the main cast. As far as villains are concerned, there are also a few similarities of note, but I'll warn now, I'll be going into spoiler territory for both series. If you haven't completed or caught up to both shows, but are interested in these similarities, I suggest you catch up to both respective animes first before continuing this video. So, starting with aesthetics, there's a clear color distinction between antagonists and protagonists in both series. Although most Soul Reapers started as antagonists in the Soul Society arc, In all arcs afterwards, they're on the side of Ichigo's group and fight the Arrancars, the Execution Fullbringers, and manga spoilers alert, the Quincy's. Ichigo and the other Soul Reapers mostly wear black designs, while the Arrancars and the Quincy's mostly wear white. In Seraph of the End, the Moon Demon Company, in which almost all the protagonists are a part of, mostly wear black, while the majority of vampires they're fighting sport white uniforms. Now in terms of specific villains, I didn't find a whole lot of clear similarities, but one major one that I noticed watching Seraph of the End was the similarity between Gin Ichimaru and Farid Bathory. Both have silver hair and both have very polite demeanors, smiling a lot but with a clear manipulative and condescending tone. They have very obvious, devious intentions, and they taunt other characters a lot, friend and foe alike. Both are amongst the strongest and most influential in their ranks, with Gin as a second in command to Aizen in the Arrancar army, and Farid is the 7th progenitor of the vampire army, progenitors being the strongest and most feared vampires. Both characters also committed betrayals against their leaders in the middle of a conflict. Gin Ichimaru, while fighting alongside Aizen in the fake Karakura Town arc against the Gotai 13, suddenly turned his blade on Aizen and nearly killed him, although his assassination attempt failed. Gin wanted revenge over Aizen for hurting Rangiku and bided his time climbing the ranks and getting close to Aizen in order to eventually kill him. But it backfired and he ended up getting killed by Aizen instead. Farid, alongside Crowley Usford, ambushed their leader, Krul Tepes, who was the Queen of Japan and Farid's direct superior, after catching wind of the Seraph of the End project and Krul's intention to pursue her own goals rather than that of the vampires. She was defeated and dethroned as Queen of Japan and eventually detained. So the main difference here is that Gin's betrayal failed and ended up in his death, while Farid's was successful. And the final similarity between both series is the presence of sentient weapons with their own will. In Bleach, each Soul Reaper's Zanpakuto has a distinct personality, name, and design, and Soul Reapers have to work to cooperate with their Zanpakuto and keep their powers in check, in order to keep control of their consciousness. Members of the Moon Demon Company in Seraph of the End also have a similar situation with their weapons, and have to coexist with a sentient being that resides within their weapon, in the form of demons. Although characters in Seraph of the End have a lot more work cut out for them than Soul Reapers, as most Soul Reapers have a standard Zanpakuto that isn't necessarily devious or evil, except for Ichigo, who, due to the circumstances of his birth, has an amalgamation of spirits within his sword that he finds difficult to contain. Moon Demon Company members seem to have devious demon spirits by default, as Yuichiro is not the only one shown to be struggling to contain his demon sword spirit. Yoichi and Kumizuki also have to contend with their demon spirits. So I hope you guys found this as interesting as I did. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. I thank everyone who has watched for all the support so far. And one more little thing before the video ends. I've agreed with a few friends of mine that if I get to 100 subscribers, I'll stream myself playing Outlast 2 with Facecam, with the lights off. Oh man, what am I doing? So if you're interested in watching that stream, stay tuned to this channel. Anyway, thank you for watching and take care.